I'm Jessie, and I'm an accent coach.
And I'm Jesus. I'm also an accent coach.
And we are answering your question today.
On to your question.
Hey, Jessie, Arush here, and I just got a quick question. But before I ask you the question, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask you another question. But my question is that I'm currently 16, and I was basically thinking that, is it a good idea for me to think that it's a reasonable goal to sound almost like a native speaker by the time I'm, let's say, 18 or 19. And kind of the reason, like the way that I define sounding almost like a native speaker is I don't just want to have the right pronunciations and the right rhythm and everything, but I also want to feel confident when I talk. And the way kind of I define being confident when I talk is I'm kind of very spontaneous, like the way I am in my native language. That's the kind of fluency that I'm aiming for. And so do you think that it's a reasonable goal to have? And what tips do you have for me while I'm, pursuing this goal? So yeah, that was my question. And yeah, I appreciate, you taking the time and letting me ask another question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Arush. So if you would have asked me this in writing and I didn't hear your voice, I would be really hesitant to say that it was possible. However, let me be honest and say your accent is amazing. And I'm really impressed that you were able to have that much of an American accent without, I think, leaving the country and living in the United States. And I'm actually really surprised that you said that you want to feel confident and that you're able to feel spontaneous and fluent, because when I listen to you, I think you're already there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and you scripted everything before you said it, but if you left that message without scripting it and planning it and practicing it, I would say you're already there. You sound fluent, you sound like you're confident, and it sounds like you don't really have to think too much before you speak. But now let's talk about the American accent. When I listen to you, there are times where I would think, oh, he might be a native speaker. And if you were to tell me you were a native speaker, I might believe you. But then there are some times where I hear different things that you pronounce that don't sound American. In fact, they kind of sound British to me. And like I mentioned in my last video, when I responded to your first question, you want to look for patterns in your speech that do not sound American, and then target them and practice them, which I will tell you and show you how to do that in more detail in this video. But you want to know if you can have a near native accent? I would say you already have it. And I actually have not seen what Jesus has responded yet to your question. So I'm really curious to see if Jesus says that you have an American accent or if he says that you don't yet. You're pretty close. I would say you're near native. Like I mentioned, you want to compare the accent that you have now versus the accent that you want, and then eliminate the sounds that don't fit into the American accent and change them to become more American. And that's if you want a uniform American accent. Having an accent is not bad, but I know you want to sound more American. And I would say for most people, because there are going to be other people watching this video, I would say most people who want to achieve an American accent before going to the United States or Canada, it might be very difficult, if not almost impossible, and then you can perfect it when you're there. But I wouldn't be surprised if you can pretty much perfect it before even going to the States. Of course, there might be some words that might sound a little off, but for the most part, I think it's possible to do that within the next 2 years, especially seeing what you've already accomplished. So what are the sounds and patterns that I hear in your speech that does not match the American accent? The first sound that I heard that sounded a bit off and didn't sound American was this sound here. I don't know if you are familiar with the IPA, and whoever else is watching it, you may or may not be familiar with this. If you're not, that's okay. If you are, this might be helpful. But it is this sound here, like in thank you, you, and then you. Improve. When you say it, it sounds kind of like, I mentioned, a little British or something. There's something that doesn't sound quite American. I almost hear thank you, you, improve. I hear something like that. So this is the first sound that you want to target. And I plan to make a resource for you. I don't know if I'll be offering it publicly, but I will be offering it to you, Arush, and also my paid members on Patreon, YouTube, and any other membership that I create. So I'm going to create a sheet and a video with the sound with me saying different words with the sound and allow you to repeat after me. I will also make other resources so that when you practice daily, you'll be able to develop that muscle memory and to really get rid of that, I'll say, mispronunciation, because it's correct how you pronounce it, but not with an American accent. So you'll be able to substitute those sounds for American sounding sounds, right? So you improve, right? You'll be able to have those sounds come naturally. So I'll send that to you when it's ready, but this is the sound you want to target and to learn and make a habit in your daily speech. Here's the next sound you will want to work on if you want to have a uniform American accent. So here's the IPA symbol. So in words like almost, oast, almost, you know, no, so, close. I was kind of hearing like almost, you know. So there was kind of like this sound that came up that sounded British. So if you can really master this sound, it will help you sound more American. Again, I'll try to create a resource especially for you and my paid members. And by the way, I listened to all of your voice messages, your questions, and these are the words that I specifically heard you, I don't want to say mispronounce, but that you pronounce in a different manner, okay? So this one, I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I'm kind of taking a risk and saying that this might be a sound that you have trouble with because I only heard one word. But maybe with other words, you might be pronouncing it differently as well. So this sound here, like in right, right. I think it sounded more British, like right, or something like that. But it's right or right. It's like an I, right. Other words that would have this sound would be my, try, hi. Again, I'll try to create a resource for you so that you can work on these sounds. I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to turn this over to Jesus.
Yes, I actually do believe that you can sound near native at the age of 18 or 19. And I am impressed with what you have achieved. You are certainly at a very good level and a very believable native-like accent. Now, for even further improvement, these would be my recommendations or observations for you. The first one is that you have to be careful not to overcompensate the fact that some words in English are reduced when we speak fluently. When we have a preposition, for instance, at the end of a word, ending a thought, then we keep the strong pronunciation of it. As in the question, who do you work for? We would not reduce for in that case to fur. And that was present during your recorded message to Jessie. That would be one thing to keep in mind. Another one is that sometimes when you pronounce the diphthong O, as in almost, it has a quality that is more reminiscent or similar to some British accents. Interestingly enough, nowadays, modern received pronunciation is closer to American English in some of its sounds. The O sound, for instance, is now sounding very close to what we're used to here in America. Oh, so that would be another thing. Now, after that, I can tell again, and I congratulate you for all the good results you have achieved. I can tell that you've been doing this for some time and that you have definitely paid attention to some of the finer details. At your level, one of my recommendations would be to start to focus on some more native sounding phrases for expressing your ideas, perhaps some idiomatic expressions or some more advanced vocabulary. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. On the part of the actual speaking, one other thing for you to consider would be to really pay attention to where you are focusing or getting your vocal energy from. In most American accents, we have a lower placement compared to other languages. We really keep the placement low, and the quality of the voice is therefore richer and fuller. Another thing that you can try to implement is to try to reduce some of the mouth movements when you pronounce certain sounds. Let me give you an example. Take the sound ooh, for instance, the number 2. In order to get a quite believable American sound, you can start to become a little bit lazy with the articulation. So instead of fronting the sound a lot, like two, you can try to pull the lips back a little bit. Two, two, two. You can try to say that almost with your lips flat. Two, two, two. And you can do it. And that gives it a very unmistakable American sound. You can also try this, for instance, with the E sound, like the word feet. E, feet. Details like that will definitely go a long way. All right, I think that'll do it for my own take on the matter. Again, I congratulate you for what you have accomplished. It really is impressive. You are definitely at that near native-like level. And when it comes to your English speaking. Other than that, continue to work on your overall fluency, try to articulate your thoughts, more concisely, and things like that. So anyway, that's it for me, and back over to Jessie.
Thank you, Jesus. And if you are not already following him, feel free to check out the links down below to see where you can find him on social media. Also, if you'd like to join one of my memberships, check down below in the descriptions and you will see what options you have. If you'd like to watch other videos from this Ask an Accent Coach video series, click right here and you can check it out. Take care and bye-bye.